And it is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160, 101.1 FM. Our conversation with Bill Ripken is brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. He is the author of State of Play, the old school guide to new school baseball. He is also a guy who played 12 years of Major League Baseball from the very famous Ripken family. He is Bill Ripken, now on the MLB Network. Bill, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
That is probably the longest intro that I've ever had to do.
It's good, though. I always say this, intros and bios make you sound way much better than you actually are.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Well, it's good to have you with us here today. I want to get right into the book. And, of course, one of the first things, I'm sure you've heard it before, is, Bill, don't sugarcoat it. Tell us how you really feel.
Well, I was brought up in a way, and over the past few years, I think a lot of this conversation that's swirled around this new school is in charge and the new school's here and this is how we do it, there's just been this implication to me that the old school guy didn't even think about what they did. They just went out there and played baseball. And I just wanted to make a point first and foremost. Old school guys have always used numbers, always used information to make a plan. The fact that there might be more numbers and more information at hand shouldn't change the fact if an old school guy gets a biscuit that's good, and if it's good, he'll use it. If it's not good, the old school guy says, I can't use that, and then is looked at as being rigid or unwilling to change. So numbers and information have always been in the back pocket of old school guys and will continue to be. And I just think that there's this little bit of a misnomer out there that we just went out there and flew by the seat of our pants. It's just not true.
Yeah, well, one of the lines that you write, and it's the old school has legitimate baseball experience to draw from that can only be obtained by being part of or playing the game at the highest level. That says exactly what you just said.
Right, and the other deal is, look, there's a saying out there in the world, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. I disagree with that, because if you have an old dog and you incentivize this dog right, he will learn more new tricks. Now, the difference between that new little effervescent puppy that's all energetic, the puppy doesn't know what the old dog knows. So I think you have to understand that. And I'm all on board with new thoughts and new ideas and new energy being inserted into the game. But they have to understand on that side of the street what the old side of the street actually knows and understands.
Let's get into a couple of the things that you write about in the book that involve actually our buccos. And one of those is the lineup construction. And specifically, you look at the Jim Leyland's great ball clubs of the early 90s and Jay Bell and the way that Jim Leyland approached the use of Jay Bell. It just isn't done that way anymore, is it?
Well, it's not. And now a lot of times these teams that have gotten smarter than everybody else want to put their best players in the two spot or their best hitters in the two hole. Well, I thought that those Pirate teams that I put in the book on lineup construction was a great example of an old school guy named Jim Leyland, who, by the way, liked numbers and information, put the lineup out there in a way where it almost seemed like the individual parts added up to be something greater than what the individual parts should have. And I think some ways the new school thought process is they can't fathom that because everything needs to be 1 + 1 = 2. That just doesn't happen in baseball. So a couple of those years, Jay Bell, I know he had 31 or 37 sack bunts in one given year, still ended up scoring 90-some runs. But the idea of Jay coming up in the first inning, getting a bunt down, somebody behind him getting a knock, and the Pittsburgh Pirates go up 1-0, you win an awful lot of games when you go up 1-0. Mm-hmm. And playing for one run sometimes works. And Jimmy Leyland's squads back in the day certainly added up to more than what maybe they should have.
At some point, that way of thinking just went away. And we talk about sabermetrics and how that played a very significant role in the way that the ball game is played today. Another of the things you talk about is launch angle. And we hear all these terms now that we never used to. And you cite Josh Bell as an example of launch angle conversation. And that's a really fascinating aspect, too.
Yeah, and the launch angle, look, did Babe Ruth have a launch angle? Sure he did. Did Hank Aaron have a launch angle? Yeah, everybody who ever played has had a launch angle. And the idea of this, I think there's a little bit of a misconception and misinterpretation of what launch angle is. Launch angle is nothing more than the ball coming off the bat. has nothing to do with anything else. The ball coming off the bat. Some guys' swings are designed maybe to hit the ball in the air a little bit more than others, but that doesn't mean that you can't be successful. So Josh Bell, relatively speaking, hovers around the average launch angle for the league or slightly below it. But when you look at what Josh Bell was able to do when he was healthy in the first half of last year, when he led the league in ribbies, that launch angles works for him. He's a big, strong guy, but hits low rockets, and every now and then they'll carry out of the ballpark. So there is no one-size-fits-all. You can't say this is how you do it or this is optimum. Baseball is just too different for that type of thing. So Josh Bell's pretty much maintained a normal launch angle for him over the few years. I know 2 years ago he was injured a little bit with a rib cage injury, and I cited that. I said, there's more of a reason why you struggled and not a low launch angle. The guy's launch angle is probably his launch angle when he was 12 years old swinging the bat in the backyard.
Yeah.
And he's a strong dude that hits rockets. You continue to hit rockets, he's going to continue to produce.
We only have a few more minutes left with Bill Ripken. The book is State of Play, the Old School Guide to New School Baseball. In addition to being all these great conversations about the way things are looked at now as opposed to the old way, it's a love book. It's a love story about your dad and the Ripken way, isn't it?
Yeah, I think everything that I've had in the game was kind of thrusted at me through him and his beliefs. I've taken some of those beliefs and kind of morphed them in a way maybe that he might not have, or the fact that the times have changed a little bit, there's more information for me to use. But I say in the book about Dad had two sons that played in the big leagues. Now, one of them, it was clear, had more to work with in Cal Jr. than the other one did in me. But the way Dad parented us, the way Dad coached us, he was very matter-of-fact with me. And he even said to me on a number of occasions, you're not Cal. You can't do the things that he can do. Now, some parents might raise their eyebrow at that. Oh, my goodness, what kind of parenting is that? Well, it's real parenting. And he was also good enough to say after that, but what you can do, you will find in most cases it will be good enough. So figure out what you are, who you are, how you play, what you can do, and build on those things. So the fact that he influenced the two of us, me probably to get me to the big leagues and stay there for a little bit, and the fact that his influence on Junior probably turned him into the Hall of Famer and the Iron Man that he is, it's kind of interesting to see where he took the individual talents that were given to him, what he had to work with, and he made the best out of both of them.
We're going to watch him all year long on MLB Network and wherever else you turn up, Bill. State of Play, the Old School Guide to New School Baseball. This has been fun. Man,
I appreciate your time and having me on there. If anybody wants to go to Amazon and they're a Prime member, you'll get it real quick.
There you go. And you need it. By golly, spring training's here. Bill, thanks so much.
All right, I appreciate you.
Have a great day.